Hey y'all, today is November 5th and we are reviewing lesson 4-2. Be sure to take good notes so that you can use this on your Savas lesson quiz. Number 1, write an expression equivalent for h plus 5 plus 3 minus 2h. So we are going to be combining like terms here. So I'm first going to identify my like terms. So like terms will have the same variable. So I see I have an h here and a negative 2h here. Now let's remember for this h, I have an understood 1 that is in front of it. So I have positive 1 minus 2. Well, 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So I have negative 1h. Now my other two terms, the ones that are not circled, are like terms. I can combine them. So remember, just plain old numbers can also be considered like terms. So I'm going to be combining 5, which is positive 5, and 3. 5 plus 3 we know is 8. So I'm going to add 8 here. Now there's one thing I want to point out. Remember, I don't need a 1 in front of a variable. It will be understood to be there. So I'm going to simplify this even further and write it as negative h plus 8. And that right there is my final answer, negative h plus 8. Okay, moving on to number 2, write an expression that is equivalent to 7m divided by 8. Well, remember, we talked about this the other day. Anytime you see division, you can represent that in a fraction form because the fraction bar represents division. So I'm just going to rewrite this right here as 7m over 8. And that right there is my answer. Okay, moving on to number 3, use properties of operations to write an expression equivalent to x over 4 plus y plus 12. So what I see here is I see that I have two terms that are grouped together in parentheses. So I'm going to rewrite this exactly as it is. So x over 4 plus y plus 12. I'm not going to change the order of my terms at all. But there's a property that allows me to change the way terms are grouped, and that's the associative property. So instead of putting a parentheses around these two terms, I can put parentheses around these two terms. So I'm going to put parentheses around x over 4 and y. So this right here is my answer. X divided by 4 plus y in parentheses and then plus 12 behind that. So remember, this right here is the associative property. And you might want to even make a note that we just use the associative property. Okay, moving on to number 4, what number makes the expressions equivalent? So I've got negative 1/4 times negative 3.2m plus 1.6 equals blank m plus 0.4. So all we have to do is figure out the number that goes right here in front of that m. So remember, when I have a number outside of parentheses, I'm going to end up multiplying that number with what's inside of the parentheses. So I would multiply 1/4 times negative 3.2m, and I would have to multiply 1/4 times 1.6. Now, what I notice is that I don't need to worry about multiplying it with 1.6 because I've got that right here. So I'm just going to multiply it with the term that has the variable. So 1/4 times negative 3.2. So in my calculator, I'm going to type 1/4 times negative 3.2. Now, do remember that 1/4 can be written as 0.25. So 0.25 times negative 3.2 will give you the same answer. And when you do put that into your calculator, you will get negative 0.8. So that right there is our answer, negative 0.8. Okay, and that property that we just applied was the distributive property. Okay, moving on to number 5, use the commutative property to write an expression equivalent to negative 2a plus 1/3. Okay, the commutative property. Remember, this is the one that says order does not matter. So we can flip-flop the order when we have expressions that look like this. So our first term here is negative 2a. And our second term is positive 1/3. So I'm just going to flip-flop the order, and I'm going to write positive 1/3 out in front, and I'm going to put negative 2a behind that. So 1/3 minus 2a is my new expression. Okay, number 6. Select all of the expressions which are equivalent to negative 4/3 p minus 2/5. So I do want to zoom in on that. I want you to notice that both of these terms are negative, and I know that because of these signs right here. So I'm going to look at my answer choices, and I want to make sure I can eliminate anything that doesn't have them both negative. So look at the first one. I've got negative 4/3 p plus 2/5. Well, one's positive and one's negative, so that doesn't work. The second one, I can see that they're both negative here and here. They're both negative. So that's good to go. We'll keep that one for now. In the third one, my 2/5 is negative. I have negative 2/5, but look at this 4/3 p. That's positive, so that one does not work. Okay, in my fourth answer choice, I can see that they're both negative once again. So I'm going to keep that one around for now. But in my last choice, I see that they're both positive. I have a positive 2/5 and a positive 4/3 p. So I'm going to eliminate that choice as well. Okay, so now let's actually apply some of our knowledge about properties. Well, I see I have two terms here, so I'm going to use the commutative property and flip-flop the order. So I'm going to move this negative 4/3 p behind the 2/5, and I'm going to move this one in front. So we're just flip-flopping the order, right? So I'm going to write this as negative 2/5 out in front, and then minus 4/3 p behind that. Well, is that one of our choices that we have? Yes, that looks just like this second choice. So that one is good. Now let's look at this little note right here. I want you to remember that you can always rewrite subtraction as adding the opposite. And we did this way back in topic 1. Like if we have 5 minus 2, I can rewrite that as 5 plus negative 2. Well, can I do the same thing here? I sure can. In this case, I'm going to keep the first term just as it is. So negative 4/3 p. I'm going to change this subtraction to addition. So I'm now adding. And then I'm going to change this 2/5 so that it's the opposite, which means it's just negative. So now I can see that I've made them both negative. Well, is that one of our options as well? So negative 4/3 p plus negative 2/5, that is one of our options. That's that fourth option. So that one works as well. Oops, let's make that a prettier box. Okay, and now number 7. Write an expression that is equivalent to g plus 7 plus 2 minus 5g. So remember, that's 1g, and that's negative 5g. So 1 minus 5 is negative 4, and the g stays with it. So now I have 7 plus 2, and we know that 7 plus 2 is 9, so I'm going to add 9. So negative 4g plus 9 is my answer. And that is the end of the 4-2 review video.